After a few minutes, Carlyle and Esme came downstairs. They greeted me with smiles and hugs, happy Bella and I had enjoyed our trip. The atmosphere was almost light, considering the reason for our departure. They all assured me, however, that there was no danger in the immediate future, and the best thing I could do was keep Bella calm, close, but calm, until they could figure out a plan of action. By the time I was on my way back to her, everything had started to feel nearly back to normal. That was, until we got to school the next day. "Better get here soon. Don't want to be here any longer than I have to. Stupid bloodsuckers. They're lucky Paul didn't take that big one out. Had every right to. Next time we're not stopping him. They step over the line, they're fair game." I could hear Jacob's infuriated thoughts a few blocks before we reached the school, and my hands clenched around the steering wheel. "If I asked you to do something, would you trust me?" I asked Bella warily. It was obvious Jacob would have no problem speaking bluntly in front of her, and I knew there was little I could do about it. Her heartbeat accelerated as she took in my expression. "That depends," she said shakily. "I was afraid you would say that." "What do you want me to do, Edward?" "I want you to stay in the car." As I parked the car, I glanced carefully around until I found him. There was no way I'd be able to convince Bella to stay if she saw him, so I tried to keep her eyes locked with mine. "I want you to wait here until I come back for you." "But why?" she asked, her gaze breaking from mine as she surveyed the parking lot. "Oh," she finally breathed, and I knew the battle was lost. All I could do now was try to stop him from saying the words out loud. "You jumped to the wrong conclusions last night," I told her solemnly. "He asked about school because he knew I would be where you were. He was looking for a safe place to talk to me, a place with witnesses." She looked momentarily confused, but her expression quickly shifted into one of resolve. "I'm not staying in the car." "Of course not," I sighed. "Well, let's get this over with." We got out of the car, and I wasted no time in reaching out to grab Bella's hand. I laced her fingers through mine, ignoring the icy thoughts that were coming my way as Jacob glared openly toward us. The thoughts of everyone around us were confused and nervous, with the occasional touch of exhilaration, the way most high school kids responded when they sensed a fight was breaking out at any moment. I stopped walking when I was sure we were close enough to talk without anyone overhearing. I gently moved Bella a step behind me and set to work trying to stop Jacob from saying too much. "You could have called us," I said firmly. "Sorry, I don't have any leeches on my speed dial." "You could have reached me at Bella's house, of course," I said, smiling sincerely. His face contorted, his jaw tightened, and I bit back a growl that was threatening to escape. Being familiar with the irrational responses of werewolves, I reminded myself it was my job to keep him as calm as possible. "This is hardly the place, Jacob. We could discuss this later." Sure. I'll stop by your crypt after school. What's wrong with now?" I glanced around pointedly at all the bystanders, listening carefully as they grew more and more curious. It wasn't worth stirring up suspicion, and Jacob knew it. He was just being stubborn. "I already know what you came to say," I said softly, a small grin playing at my mouth. Really, we hadn't even needed to get out of the car. This could have been settled before it was started. "Message delivered," I said dryly. "Consider us warned." I chanced a quick look towards Bella, who was still watching us worriedly. "Warned?" she asked. "What are you talking about?" Unbelievable, Jacob thought, his irritation growing. Won't even let her make up her own mind who to be upset with. "You didn't tell her?" he asked incredulously. "What, are you afraid she'd take our side?" "Please drop it, Jacob," I said calmly. "Why? You afraid she'll ditch you when she hears how it was your family who took things a few steps too far, and how if it wasn't for that idiot brother of yours, Victoria might be a pile of ashes by now?" "What don't I know?" Bella asked nervously. "Edward?" "You don't tell her? I will. All's fair." "Jake?" she asked, turning to him. It took every ounce of strength in me not to scoop her up and take off running. If it weren't for the growing number of witnesses staring at us, I don't think I would have been able to stop myself. Jacob smirked at me. "You know she'd rather hear it from you, but I'm happy to oblige." "He didn't tell you that his big brother crossed the line Saturday night?" he said, scrutinizing Bella's reaction. Then he turned to me and was scathing. Paul was totally justified, and that was no man's land. Was not. I watched him closely for any sign he was losing control. No amount of bystanders would stop me from getting Bella out of there if I thought for one moment he was about to phase. He seemed to be calming himself down as Bella finally spoke, her voice terrified. "Emmett and Paul? What happened? Were they fighting?" she asked, increasingly nervous with every second that passed without an answer. "Why? Did Paul get hurt?" "No one fought," I whispered. "No one got hurt. Don't be anxious." "You have got to be kidding me," Jacob suddenly thought, staring at me in disbelief. "Well, this is an interesting twist. I just get to be the bearer of all sorts of good news today, don't I?" I glared at him, but he was long gone. He was enjoying the moment far too much. "You didn't tell her anything at all, did you?" he said deliberately, piquing Bella's curiosity. "This is why you took her away, so she wouldn't know that—" "Leave now," I spat, wishing more than ever we were alone and I could put him in his place properly. "Why haven't you told her?" he persisted unrelentingly. I glared at him, more furious than I had ever been with him. He was doing this out of spite. He didn't care about how much it would upset Bella, only that it would get her angry with me. In the midst of my fury, I could hear Bella's heart start to pound, and her breathing become short, quick gasps. I looked down at her wide, scared eyes, just before she spoke. "She came back for me?" The fear in her eyes, the fear I had worked so hard to shield from her, was increasing with every second. I pulled her into me, softly touching her cheek, willing her pain away. "It's fine," I whispered, desperately trying to look her in the eyes, but they were glazed over and distant. "It's fine. I'll never let her get close to you. It's fine," I repeated. When she still wouldn't look at me, I turned to stare at Jacob. "Does this answer your question, mongrel?" I growled. "You don't think Bella has a right to know? It's her life." "Why should she be frightened when she was never in danger?" "Better frightened than lied to. You may not agree with me, but Bella will. Just wait. I almost wish I could be there to see it." Bella's breathing started to steady, and I wiped the last of her tears away. "Do you really think hurting her is better than protecting her?" I whispered, hating the way the panic was still lingering in her eyes after the tears had stopped. "She's tougher than you think, and she's been through worse." Without warning, all the bitter and sarcastic thoughts vanished from Jacob's mind, and I was left with nothing but images of Bella. For a moment, I didn't understand what caused his sudden shift in thinking, but then I saw her laying on the ground in the woods. Her hair was tangled and matted, her face twisted into a mask of pain, her eyes bloodshot, staring into nothingness. I felt like this was a second-hand memory, one that Jacob had seen through the eyes of another, but that only diluted it infinitesimally. Then I saw her with Jacob. She was so still, she might have been asleep, except that her eyes were open, but completely vacant. Image after image of that vacant stare followed, sometimes accompanied by images of Bella wrapping her arms around herself like she was in some kind of physical pain. It looked like she was gasping for air as she fought to keep her composure. Nowhere in this sea of memories did I see the faintest glimpse of a smile. It was the worst kind of torture, but it was exactly the kind of pain I was trying to protect her from, yet I knew I was the cause of every moment of it. "That's funny," Jacob laughed, finally releasing me from the torment of his memories. "What are you doing to him?" Bella snapped angrily at Jacob. "It's nothing, Bella," I whispered. "Jacob just has a good memory, that's all." Another wave of images hit me just as I was recovering, and Jacob smiled viciously. "Stop it!" Bella yelled. "Whatever you're doing." "Sure, if you want," he said casually. "It's his own fault if he doesn't like the things I remember, though." Then I heard the school principal making his way toward us. He had heard talk of some big kid no one knew hanging around the parking lot. "The principal's on his way to discourage loitering on school property," I said softly. "Let's get to English, Bella, so you're not involved." "Overprotective, isn't he?" Jacob said to Bella. "A little trouble makes life more fun. Let me guess, you're not allowed to have fun, are you?"